Do you feel stuck despite all your self-help efforts? That nagging feeling that something is missing, no matter how much light you try to attract? The key to your spiritual awakening is not where you're looking, but in the darkness you avoid. Many seek enlightenment, but few are willing to descend into the basement of the soul. True inner transformation demands confronting the Nigredo, the alchemical stage of blackening. Discover how facing your deepest fears and repressed aspects is not just necessary, but the direct path to forging genuine freedom and the inner gold of authenticity. At times, we spend our entire lives striving to be people of light, adhering to ready-made personal development formulas that promise instant happiness. We invest time, energy, and faith in the idea that we just need to think positive and ignore what hurts for reality to bend to our will. But, in the silence of the night, the soul whispers an inconvenient truth. The stagnation persists, the destructive cycle repeats, and that joy is, in reality, superficial. Perhaps you feel a deep emotional exhaustion, a spiritual urgency that nothing external can fill. You are not broken. You are being called to a deeper work, to an encounter with what external light cannot touch, your shadow. It is time to honor the process of authentic spirituality, the one that integrates and does not divide, that descends before it ascends. In this video, we will decode the mystery of Nigredo, the obscure secret of your inner gold. This is the courageous journey that most avoid, but which reveals itself as the only gateway to freedom and reconnection with your essential self. Alchemy, which Carl Jung translated into the language of the psychology of the soul, did not just seek to turn lead into material gold. It mapped the transformation of human consciousness. And the first step of this journey is always the blackening, the Nigredo. This is the phase of decomposition, of symbolic putrefaction. It is when our known self disintegrates, exposing the raw and indigestible material of our psyche, repressed traumas, hidden shames, and the parts of us we swore never to look at again. Unfortunately, much of modern personal development teaches us to skip this crucial phase. We have been trained to desire the white, the light, albedo, without going through the breaking of the vessel. But it is in the grieving of illusion and the darkness of self-confrontation that the true foundation is established. Jung taught us that the shadow is not our enemy. It is the repressed aspect, the unpolished gold. Embracing the Nigredo means accepting that you are the clay and the masterpiece at the same time, allowing the pain to do its work of dismantling and cleansing. What if the darkness that frightens you today is, in fact, the fertile ground where your deepest spiritual truth is waiting to germinate? Inner silence is the only furnace that can withstand this transformative heat. However, the descent into Nigredo is avoided at all costs, as we are seduced by an easier promise, the allure of the light trap. We live in a culture that idolizes the positive vibe. We are encouraged to manifest, to smile, and to ignore any trace of discomfort. Toxic positivity is the modern trap for the soul. It sells us the illusion that we just need to wish for the gold to have it, without paying the price of deep self-knowledge, without going through the internal alchemy. This is a superficial happiness, a subtle veil that prevents us from experiencing the wholeness that is born from integration, not denial. The social pressure to always be on and happy is, in fact, a defense mechanism. It is the fear of the deep dive, the dread of encountering imperfection within us. But by forcing the light, we deny the wisdom of the darkness. The master poet, Khalil Gibran, reminds us in The Prophet, "The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain." Contemplation teaches us that life, just like nature, has rhythms. There is the summer of joy and the winter of withdrawal. When we avoid the winter of the soul, we avoid gestation, the fertile void where silent wisdom forms. To refuse the shadow is to refuse the totality of the self. What we resist persists. And if you have been avoiding the encounter with your shadow, it is precisely what is sabotaging your journey. The shadow, in Jung's concept, is everything that your ego repressed because it considered it unacceptable, inappropriate, or shameful. When we avoid it, it doesn't disappear. It manifests in disguised ways, in destructive cycles of relationships, in career self-sabotage, or in chronic anxiety that cannot be explained. The shadow is like an invisible knot that imprisons the heart. Avoidance fails because the shadow, being a part of you, seeks wholeness. It projects your anger onto a neighbor, your insecurity onto a partner, and your fear onto a financial crisis. Projection is the price we pay for not looking in the inner mirror. All healing begins with the acceptance of what hurts. The true inner path is not to ignore the darkness, but to bring the light of consciousness to illuminate it. Think of the shadow as a seed. If you ignore it, it can rot or grow as a weed. But if you welcome it into the soil of your heart, it has the potential to transform into the tree of your authenticity. The fertile void of acceptance is what allows this transformation. The process of integration is not an event, but a continuous journey. It is the listening of the soul becoming practice. Working with the shadow, with the Nigredo, is an act of courage and self-kindness. It is not about fighting, but about embracing with consciousness. The first step is presence. Pay attention to your triggers. What irritates you about others? What makes you feel shame? A clue to your shadow lies there. Use reflective writing or journaling as a cave of introspection where you can give voice to what has been silenced. With every disproportionate reaction or judgment, use conscious breathing. Breathe deeply and ask yourself in silence, what in me is reacting? What part of me needs to be seen and welcomed now? This simple act of self-listening and kindness in the present moment interrupts the cycle of projection and brings the shadow back into the house of consciousness. Remember, you are not seeking a quick fix. You are embarking on a courageous journey toward wholeness. Seek self-compassion, for emotional healing is a process that respects your inner time. There is no rush in the soul. When the process of Nigredo is honored, decomposition gives way to synthesis. The integration of the shadow forges the true inner gold. The inner gold, metaphorically, is true freedom. It is not the freedom of never feeling pain or fear again, but the freedom to be who you are completely. The inner transformation that emerges from this work is a deep, resilient, and authentic sense of self, no longer based on superficial identities or external approval. You become the mountain, stable, wise, and unshakable. This gold manifests in clearer boundaries, greater creativity, and a deep self-acceptance. It is the silent wisdom that allows one to face life in its most sacred and essential form. It is here that you transcend the fear of being judged, because there is nothing left to hide, since you have welcomed all your parts. The universe listens to you when you learn to listen to yourself. Spirituality is not a journey to become perfect, but to become whole. The Nigredo is proof that the greatest light is born from the most honest darkness. Instead of running from your pains and shadows, invite them to the table of consciousness. Honor the wisdom they carry. Not all pain is punishment. Some pains are masters. You are not broken. You are in transformation. And the greatest act of conscious awakening is to reclaim your shadow as the secret engine of your totality. What if the darkness you feel today is the fastest and truest portal to the authentic, unburdened life you have always sought? What will you choose to honor? The superficial light or the wholeness forged in the fire of self-knowledge? If you felt touched by these words, I invite you to take the next step in this journey of self-discovery. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to continue this path of spiritual growth with us. Leave your personal experiences in the comments and how this content has inspired your inner awakening. Let's grow together, not just in mind, but in heart. If you seek a safe harbor, Know that our community is the sanctuary where fertile silence is shared and deepened. And to continue expanding your sanctuary of clarity, we suggest the video in the card. May it be a new source of inspiration, peace and light.